Hi everyone, my name's Patrick Fingler. I work on our technical marketing team, and in this tech tip video I'm going to show you how you can create master variables to manage branching logic inside of Geocortex Workflow. Let's take a look. Okay, so in this tech tip video I'm going to highlight how you can use master variables to manage branching logic inside of your workflows. So here I'm viewing a web app builder for ArcGIS application. I've got a pretty standard, typical municipality base map, which has some hydrants, work orders, service requests, tax parcels, and some water mains. Here what I've done is I've added a simple workflow that allows me to search for hydrants. Now, what's interesting about this workflow is I've got two options to search for hydrants, and I could have three, I could have four, and other different options. And what I'm going to be showing you is how you manage the branching of these options inside of your workflows that you create. So here I've got the option to find hydrants by ID, and I've got the option to find hydrants by buffer. So I guess this would be finding a single hydrant by ID. As I type the hydrant ID, we've got an autocomplete. I can click submit. I can then select that hydrant and then ultimately generate a report on it, and vice versa. If I go back, I can also find hydrants by buffer, so I can select a point on the map here, do a buffer of 100 meters, and then I can then pass these three hydrants to my report engine. So what I'm going to be highlighting is how you manage the branching of this in the back end using Geocortex Workflow. So this is the workflow that I'm ultimately running in that web app builder for ArcGIS application. And again, this same workflow would work the exact same in our Geocortex viewer for HTML5. So this is the search form, and here I've got two options. So this is a radio group form element that I've just titled search options. And the logic that I've applied is when one user selects this ID option, we'll show these two ID form elements. When they select the buffer option, then we'll show the rest of these form elements. And doing so is really easy. I've just added a change event on this radio group form element. And this essentially it has a switch activity, which takes what that user selects as input. So we're just getting the value of what that user enters. And then we do some branching on it. So if they select the ID radio button, then we'll show the ID section and all of the form elements within it. And then we'll hide the buffer section, and vice versa. We'll show the buffer section if they select the buffer one and hide the ID section. So that's how it's dynamic. I'm not going to really be diving into that today because I really want to manage or highlight how you manage the whole branching logic of performing a query for performing multiple different queries. So let's go back to the start here. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Let's just reset that. Yeah. So once the user clicks submit, I then have a container called select hydrants. Again, using containers is a great way to organize your workflows. And here what I've got is, again, that switch for that search option. So if they select the buffer option, we're then going to perform a number of activities. So we're going to buffer the area that the user selects, and then we're going to query the hydrants that fall within that buffer. A key part here is I'm actually then setting or I'm passing the result of these features to a master variable. So here we can see the start of this workflow or this container. I've just created an empty variable using the create value activity, and I've called this selected hydrants. And what I do is here, so when I perform a buffer, I do that query. I'm then using the set property activity where I'm passing the features within that from that query to this global variable. So here, this is the object. It's my selected hydrants object. The property that I'm overriding is the result. It's just the default property. And then I'm passing in the features from this. This is the buffer query. Similarly, on my ID side, so if the user performs a query and finds the hydrant based on the ID that they select, I'm doing a simple query. So I'm saying where the ID of the hydrant matches the ID that they are searching for. I perform that query, and then I'm setting that same master variable, which I've called selected hydrants. I'm setting that, I'm kind of overriding that variable with the features from that query that we just performed up here. Now this is really nice because it really cleans up your workflow. So now, essentially, at this stage here, whether I do a buffer or whether I do or search for hydrants by ID, this selected hydrants variable will hold either of these results. So then here I've got a little if statement to just say if the selected hydrants result, which is our features, is a property called length. If it's greater than 0, so if we've got more than one hydrant that we've selected, then we're going to present the user with a form to then show the list of hydrants and so on. So this really cleans up your workflows and allows, really kind of simplifies the back end of them as you're beginning to develop them. If we wanted to just kind of see this in the back end, I'm just going to open up the console here. And rerun this workflow. So here I've got two options. I can find hydrants by ID and find hydrants by buffer. Let's just turn on our user messages. So let's find hydrants by ID and search for 095656 and select that. I'm just going to clear this and run it. We can see here I've got my switch activity. I'm then doing my query, so I'm querying my hydrants by ID. So I'm saying, where the facility ID is like the ID I entered. I'm then setting the property of my object to the value of that I entered. And then I'm doing an if statement. So I'm saying if the length, so if we just go into here, I can say if the length is greater than 0, here it's greater than 1, or here it's 1, then we're going to present the user with this form. I could then select this hydrant, generate a report, call this tech tip. It'll then process that report and present it to me. And here I've got my report. I can open it up, and here we can see I've got a report with an attachment and a feature map highlighting my hydrant. And again, this same process would happen if I selected the buffer option. So that's essentially how you can use these master variables to manage the branching logic within your workflows. Thanks for watching.